Welcome to the Reds Reviews podcast brought to you by Paperhead.com. Right now there is a promo for $3 for up to 3 months, and that is a premium promo. It does include everything on the plate, and it's about that time, so let's get on with the Red Show. All right, everybody, I just wanted to welcome Benny back to the show. It has been a couple of weeks. We've done some recordings in between, obviously, because the NFL is back and we can't miss out on that kind of stuff. But I did want to check in with him and say, hey, and see what's going on with him. We were just kind of chatting before. That was, we're talking about how this year looked like, it looked pretty bleak. It really did. When mid-May was rolling around in June and it was in the peak of the fear state. And we didn't know if anything was going to be coming back this year in 2020. And then we were all sitting on our hands trying to figure out what to do. And, live dealer and everything was the only way to actually get some action on the sheets. But now October's almost here. September, the NFL started. There is some college games that are going on. The NBA is running. There's women's basketball. There's the entire soccer league spread is back. I mean, so what do you think? Are you looking optimistic on this now? I mean, how do you feel about all this?
Well, let me just put it this way. I mean, one of the reasons I haven't been able to visit you, Red, on your show is because I've been so busy. So that's a good way to put it. I mean, my sheet is looking fantastic right now, and I'm just excited about everything. I'm actually making more money at this point. I'm trending to make more money this year than I did in 2019.
Yeah, isn't
and
that
I think
crazy?
a lot of it's nuts. I mean, it blows my mind. And I think part of the reason is that even though the craziness is still going on in the world, all right, we don't need to get into it because we all know what's happening. Outside of the craziness, our world, sports betting and sports books and players and sheets and betting lines, it's business as usual, but it's even more so than business as usual. There seems to be a desire not just to wager on things like football and basketball, but also on hockey and soccer and boxing. I mean, we've got a huge boxing match with Lomachenko is fighting this really young, great fighter in October, and I'm already getting a ton of interest on that. I even had a player call me the other day talking about the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup. I had to look on ESPN and do some studying to figure out, okay, well, he's talking about odds on this thing. It's not something that I'm really familiar with.
No, and it's true. It's true. So I don't know if it's maybe just the dynamic of whatever happened and everyone was just fiending for some action and it was boring and all the things in between. And that's one of the things that you look at the U.S. market, because obviously, we're not the gaming market when it comes down to it. There's a lot of the big Euro soccer leagues and everything else that were struggling and had to deal with all the same kind of COVID restrictions and shutdowns and all this stuff. But you look at the actual public and you see the way that people have responded. And like you said, the amount of, let's say, the change in odds and the openings and markets that people explored just because of the fact that there wasn't anything else to play. Like NASCAR was one of the first things to come back. And
yeah,
it definitely shows, because there are people that are looking at NASCAR lines that never, in my sheet anyway, have ever played on anything like that. And it's been good for the I guess the atmosphere, if that makes sense. And I know that most people have some kind of whatever, oh, it's gambling and everybody, you're a degenerate and all these kinds of things. But the reality is that entertainment is entertainment. If you're not a sick person with it, it's entertainment. And this is what the entire United States was missing for months, is real entertainment, not some talking head on the news telling us some humdrum sadness story about how the world's in the toilet. And here we are. So I'm sitting here and I'll just fill you in on my sheet. My sheet, I've got like I said, I've picked up some players and things have really, like, I've got a lot of volume on stuff like that. The only thing I'm running into, and this is it's not a usual occurrence, is that because the lines are the way they are, and some of these games aren't as, like the baseball in particular. I'm not a fan of booking it. I'm not. I never will be. And it's just because it's the heads up money lines on these favorites and the pitching matchups. And if anybody pays attention to anything, just barely, they can actually hit some of these games. And so, like, I've seen my sheet and the volumes increase on the baseball, particularly through this last part. And also, now that the NBA playoffs are here, not that some of these teams weren't ready. Like, you look at what happened to the Bucks, right? Milwaukee should have came in here and been like where Miami is. That's where they should have been. But instead, they got closed out, and we're sitting here, waiting for these things to continue on. I'm actually interested. What do you think is going to happen with the Heat and the Celtics? Do you think that they're just going to wipe them in the next game, or the Celtics are going to win?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I really think that I think that there's something sort of special about this Miami Heat team.
I do too. I do too.
Uh, they remind me of, I forget what year it is. It might have been 2008 or even before 2008, when the Detroit Pistons upset the Lakers.
Yeah, I think that was like 2006 or seven, honestly. Right?
Yeah. Chauncey Billups was
Mm-hmm.
their point guard. And what I mean by that is Jimmy Butler, in my estimation, he's one of the top five players in the NBA because there's a calmness that he has, and he's not afraid to allow guys like like that rookie Tyler Hero
Yeah.
or you know
Hero came in, man, and showed up. He showed
yeah,
up.
he's not afraid for that to happen. So I don't know if we should be giving advice to our players, but I've always been one to spread the wealth if I have it.
No, I hear you. Listen, let's cut it off there on that then. I agree with you. I don't want to share anything that I think on it more than anything other than the fact that I do like the Heat, and I think that Butler's a great leader, and I think he's a great scrappy player, and it also bodes because he's one of the guys that he does have his stance on things, right? And because there's all the political stuff going on, and I'm not just going to skate across that because I don't want to talk about it, and it always makes everyone pissed or whatever, and I'll lose listeners and fans based on something like that, right? But the reality is that the guy plays the game, and that's important. And it's just like LeBron. LeBron does play the game as well as has a message. He's a proponent, and he's the main reason why we ended up in this season the way that it is. Um, and what I hope that comes out of this, that people are watching this happen, because as far as I saw, the ratings actually have gone back up since the protest that happened when Milwaukee walked off the court. And it's just, I'm not saying that they like doubled or anything, but they went up a little bit. And that's just because the games are actually starting to heat up and it's getting exciting. And this is why people watch sports. It's because there's an actual competition between real athletes, and it's not just some kind of agenda that is being placed in front of people to have a platform, right? Other than the actual game itself. So, shifting gears, let's look at now what's going on with the Pac-10s and Big 12. I mean Big 10, Pac-12. Got that old dyslexia coming in. So yeah, these markets are going to be talking about starting what I think it was the most recent update was that they were looking at starting in November, and they're following suit because the SEC and all these other the Big Five as they call them, the Power Five, are all looking at playing. And if you're the Big Ten and you got all these players, and there was a mass exodus. I mean, there's a lot of people that left and they filed for transfers, and some of them even opted out, even playing in college football at all to go into the draft. There's been a lot of things, and there's obviously some of them that are more on the cautious side that are just like, oh, I'm not going to play this season because I'm scared for my family or whatever it may be, right? But I just there's going to be so much action within the next couple of days because the SEC game kicks off on the 29th if I'm remembering that right. there's going to be a bunch of the
Yeah, the
real.
20.
It's the 26th. Sorry, it's just what happens when it's this busy, man. My head's spinning.
I know it's good.
So there's going to be the college football, the NFL, the NBA, all the things that are going to that usually are our bread and butter are never running like this together. Usually at this point, obviously the NBA does because they run over Christmas and all that stuff like that. But this would be a start of the new season. It wouldn't be this peak playoff kind of action right now, and I'm just
Correct.
I'm psyched about it. So
The the difference this year, which I think is actually going to lead to even more action for us um, on our sheets and stuff is, I mean, these teams are going right into it. I mean, we used to have to wait like 2 to 3 weeks and watch Alabama beat up
yeah, Austin
Hofstra.
Pay. They play Austin
Austin,
Pay or Citadel or
yeah,
something, and it's like
yeah,
400 to
everybody.
four.
Austin Pay had Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, and Alabama on their schedule.
I know, I
And
know. Poor guys.
I mean, now Bama's going right into it
Yep.
with an okay SEC team in Missouri. LSU's playing a pretty decent Mississippi State team,
Yep.
and you've got Kentucky and Auburn on Saturday. I mean, and then when the Big Ten starts in October, I think late October or early November, they're going to go right into it as well. So we don't have to, spend 2 to 3 weeks like just watching all of this stuff on television, and we don't have to worry about wagering on it either. We can go right into what's happening. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's the main thing. I mean, we'll bring it back to that right here. And the fact is that as much as this has been a tough year, right, for a lot of people in every part of the world and everything else, it is passing, and we're going into a phase right now that I think is sometimes you gotta lose stuff in order to value it, and I think that in this case we were all kind of taking things for granted and kind of going through that phase, and here we are, so I don't know. It was good to have you on the show. I just wanted to stop in and see how you're doing and talk about the sports that are coming up and everything like that, and we'll go from there. So if
yeah,
you have any questions, let me know.
yeah, definitely. One thing that I wanted to add is that the last time we spoke off camera, you were telling me about this thing called the agent payment solution, and so I decided to use that, and I'm just telling anybody that who hasn't used it yet that they should look into using that. I mean, it's changed my life, especially with what's going on right now with all of the action and everything. So, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and to
I
make
mean, I
pay.
kind of mentioned it to you before. I didn't know if you actually had taken up on it. So you did, and it's working for you.
It's not just working for me, but it's really increasing the way that I could not only pay my players. I mean, look, man, the faster I pay my players, the faster they're going to put it back into my business. So,
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know,
It's true, and it
it's
also
great.
it helps on the rep, and also too when you want to expand your markets. I mean, the main thing for me is just being able to take a guy that I've never met before. He can go out. And I don't necessarily do this all the time because I got a lot of credit guys, right? I got guys that I give them whatever a week, and these the new players on there. I just go use your credit card, put it on there, you know.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
deposit a bit, and then we'll see you in a week and see how you go. 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, they either blow the account out or they win a little bit or whatever it may be. But point is that it's more, and it's a bigger territory, and I've never even had to see this guy. You know.
I know it's great. Yeah, that's a huge advantage, I think. So,
All right. Well, that's awesome, and it's always good to hear from you. I hope you and the fam are safe over there, and we'll check in with you as soon as we possibly can get you around. I'm always around.
all right, sounds good. I'll call you if I need any advice or I got some questions, Red.
Sounds
Have a good
good.
one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. Well, that is the last part of that, since we got him out of there, if you do like what you got going on here, I'm going to just drop, a little bit of the self-promotion in there and say that if you like what you hear, like, subscribe, and follow. We are on a lot of social media platforms. We're trying to update stuff every week. We're growing. We're doing things, and we're obviously going to be talking about the new softwares and advantages that are coming up. I got wind that all kinds of new stuff is coming for the 2021 year, and that's because this is brought to you by paperhead.com. And we'll see you next week. Hope you guys the odds are always in your favor out there. Thanks for tuning into the Reds podcast, brought to you by paperhead.com. For all relative promos going on right now, please check them out at paperhead.com. Also, opinion expressed on this show are not that of paperhead.com. And if you do like what you hear, for all the agent news coming up, please like, subscribe, and follow. We will see you next week.